I should have known the moment I saw the helicopter land on our lawn that my daughter had stopped being mine. But mothers are slow to see what they don't want to believe. We cling to the child we raised even as she transforms into someone we no longer recognize. My name is Harriet Sinclair. I'm 55 years old and I used to think I understood the world. I raised my daughter Elena in a modest home in suburban Connecticut, taught her to value kindness over material things, to measure success by the people you help rather than the money you make. For 30 years I worked as a public school teacher and I was proud of that work. I was proud of her too, watching her graduate with honors, watching her take that first job at a small nonprofit in the city. She was going to change the world, she told me. He believed it then. So did I. But that was before Marcus Rothwell entered her life. The first time Elena mentioned Marcus, I was stirring soup in my kitchen on a Sunday afternoon. She had come home for the weekend, something she did less and less frequently as the demands of city life consumed her. She sat at the kitchen table, the same table where she had done her homework as a child, and she told me about this man she had met at a fundraising gala. He was older, she said. Successful. He ran a private equity firm that I wouldn't have heard of. She said his name like it meant something, like I should recognize it, be impressed by it. I asked her what he was like as a person. She told me about his penthouse, his car, his vacation home in the Hamptons. I asked again what he was like and she looked at me with something new in her eyes, something I hadn't seen before. Impatience maybe. Or pity. She said I wouldn't understand his world. She was probably right about that. Within 6 months, Elena had left the nonprofit. Marcus had offered her a position at his firm, something vague in communications and public relations. The salary was 6 times what she had been making. She moved into his building, though she insisted she had her own apartment, not his. I wanted to believe that distinction mattered. The changes came gradually at first, then all at once. Her clothes became more expensive, her handbag worth more than my monthly mortgage payment. She stopped asking about my students, stopped calling on Sundays. When I did see her, she talked about deals and acquisitions, about market opportunities and competitive advantages. She used words that sounded hollow to me, corporate language that seemed designed to obscure rather than illuminate. I met Marcus for the first time at their engagement party, held at some exclusive club in Manhattan where the doorman looked at me like I had wandered in from the street. Marcus was 42, handsome in that manufactured way that comes from personal trainers and expensive haircuts. He shook my hand with the firm grip of someone who had practiced it, who knew exactly how much pressure to apply. He called me Harriet, not Mrs. Sinclair, establishing immediately that we were not quite equals but that he was gracious enough to pretend otherwise. He told me how special Elena was, how proud I must be. He said all the right things, but his eyes were calculating, measuring my reaction, filing away information. I had seen those eyes before in students who cheated on exams, in parents who wanted grades changed. They were the eyes of someone who saw other people as obstacles or tools, never as humans. If you've ever watched someone you love slip away from you, gradually becoming a stranger wearing a familiar face, you'll understand what I'm describing. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments about how we hold on to the people we care about when they start to change. The wedding was obscene. 300 guests, most of whom Elena had never met before Marcus came into her life. A designer dress that cost more than I made in a year. Champagne that Marcus made a point of telling me was from his private collection, bottles he had acquired at auction. Everything was for show, a performance of wealth and status. Elena smiled through it all, but I noticed she never quite laughed, never quite relaxed. She looked beautiful and miserable and determined not to admit it. I gave a toast that night, short and simple. I talked about the little girl who used to bring home injured birds, who cried when she saw homeless people on the street who wanted to save everyone. I said I hoped she would never stop being that person. Marcus smiled politely. Elena looked away. For the first 2 years of the marriage, I saw Elena perhaps 4 times. He was busy, she said. Marcus had companies to run, properties to manage, investments to oversee. They traveled constantly, always to places where wealthy people gathered to be wealthy together. Monaco, Dubai, Aspen. She sent me photos from these trips. Pictures of herself in evening gowns standing beside Marcus in his tuxedo, both of them surrounded by other couples who looked exactly like them, as if they had all been produced by the same factory. She called me on my birthday, her voice bright and hollow. She asked if I had gotten the gift she sent, a ridiculously expensive scarf that I would never wear, that existed in a world I didn't inhabit. I thanked her and asked how she was really doing. She said she was great, everything was great. The connection was bad, she said, though I could hear her perfectly. He had to go. I started reading about Marcus online, something I had avoided before. The articles painted a picture of a man who specialized in acquiring struggling companies, stripping their assets, firing their employees, and selling the remains for profit. They called it restructuring, optimization, creating shareholder value. They didn't talk about the factory workers in Ohio who lost their pensions, the families in Michigan who lost their health insurance, the small towns that lost their economic foundation. But I found those stories too in smaller publications, in local news sites, in the comment sections where real people described what Marcus Rothwell's business strategies had done to their lives. One article mentioned a pharmaceutical company his firm had acquired. They had immediately raised the price of a life-saving medication by 400%. When questioned, Marcus had said something about market dynamics and fiduciary responsibility. I thought about Elena's childhood best friend who had diabetes, about the insulin her family struggled to afford. I wondered if Elena had read these articles, if she knew what Marcus actually did, if she cared. The helicopter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon in October. I was in my garden, pulling up the last of the summer vegetables before the frost came. I heard it before I saw it, that distinctive thudding sound growing louder. It landed on the back lawn, flattening the grass, sending leaves and debris swirling. Marcus stepped out first, then helped Elena down. They were both dressed like they were going to a business meeting, completely out of place in my small yard. They had come to tell me they were expecting a baby. Elena delivered the news like she was presenting a quarterly report, factual and unemotional. Marcus stood beside her with his hand on her back, proprietary. I tried to feel joy and found only dread. I hugged my daughter and felt how thin she had become, how brittle. Over dinner that night, Marcus talked about his plans for the child. The right preschool, the right elementary school, the connections that would be established early. He had already made calls, he said, to ensure placement at institutions with waiting lists years long. He talked about the child like an investment, something to be optimized and positioned. Elena said nothing, pushing food around her plate. I asked what names they were considering. Marcus said they hadn't decided yet, though he favored family names, his family names. Elena said quietly that she had always liked the name Sarah, after her grandmother, my mother. Marcus smiled and said they would certainly consider all options. The way he said it made clear that Elena's preferences were just that, options to be considered and likely dismissed. After dinner, Marcus took a phone call and stepped outside. I seized the moment alone with my daughter. I asked her directly if she was happy. She looked at me with exhausted eyes and said happiness was a childish concept, that she had responsibilities now, a position to maintain. She said I wouldn't understand because I had chosen a simple life, but she had ambitions. I asked what those ambitions were. She couldn't answer. The baby was born in March, a girl they named Ashford after Marcus's grandfather. Elena had wanted Sarah. She didn't get Sarah. I visited her in the hospital, a private suite that looked more like a hotel room than a medical facility. Elena held the baby with uncertain hands, like she wasn't quite sure what to do with her. Marcus was on his phone, pacing, discussing a merger that couldn't wait even for the birth of his daughter. I asked if I could hold Ashford. Elena handed her over gratefully, almost desperately. The baby was tiny and perfect and completely unaware that she had been born into a gilded cage. I rocked her gently and thought about Elena at this age, about the joy and terror of new motherhood, about the promises I had made to protect her from the world. I had failed those promises. I would not fail this child if I could help it. Over the next year, I saw troubling signs that accumulated like snow before an avalanche. Elena had hired a team of nannies, none of whom lasted more than a few months. Marcus had installed cameras throughout their apartment to monitor the baby, he said, though I suspected he was monitoring Elena too. She had stopped working, though Marcus framed this as her choice, her decision to focus on motherhood. But she seemed more trapped than focused, more isolated than devoted. She called me late one night, something she hadn't done in years. Her voice was strange, flat and dreamy. She said she had taken something to help her sleep, that Marcus's doctor had prescribed it, that everyone in their circle took something to manage stress. She talked about her life like she was describing someone else, a character in a story that had nothing to do with her. She said she had everything anyone could want. He said she had nothing at all. Then Marcus's voice in the background and the call ended abruptly. I drove to the city the next morning without calling first. The doorman tried to turn me away, but I insisted until he called up to the apartment. Elena came down to the lobby instead of letting me up. She looked terrible, pale and trembling, but she was smiling that bright hollow smile. She said everything was fine, I was overreacting, she had just been tired. I asked about the medication. She said it was nothing, just something to help her cope with the demands of her life. I asked what demands could possibly require chemical assistance. She said I wouldn't understand. If you're still listening to this story, I want you to think about the people in your life who might be struggling silently, hiding behind smiles and success. Sometimes the people who seem to have everything are the ones who need help the most. Please take a moment to check in on someone today. And if this story is resonating with you, I hope you'll consider subscribing so we can continue these conversations together. I started making weekly trips to the city after that, showing up unannounced, staying as long as Elena would let me. Sometimes that was an hour, sometimes only minutes before Marcus would arrive home and the atmosphere would shift, become formal and cold. I watched my daughter become a ghost in her own life, watched her shrink and fade even as her material circumstances grew more extravagant. The article appeared in a major newspaper on a Sunday in November. An investigative piece about Marcus's firm, about the pattern of acquisitions and asset stripping, about the families destroyed and communities devastated. It included interviews with former employees, with people who had lost everything while Marcus accumulated more. It detailed fraud, potential illegal activities, offshore accounts designed to hide money from taxation and scrutiny. Marcus was furious in a controlled way, making calls to lawyers, threatening lawsuits, talking about defamation and retribution. Elena sat silently during his rage, holding Ashford, her face blank. I asked her if she had known about any of this. She said everyone at that level operated the same way, that it was just business, that the article was biased. She recited these defenses like she had memorized them, like they were lines from a script Marcus had written for her. But something had cracked. Over the next few weeks, I saw Elena begin to wake up, begin to question, begin to see what she had been determinedly not seeing for years. She started asking Marcus questions he didn't want to answer. She started reading the articles she had been avoiding. She started understanding what her lifestyle actually cost and who was paying the price. The breaking point came in January. Marcus's firm was under investigation, multiple federal agencies examining his business practices. He was confident he would weather it, that he had the best lawyers money could buy, that wealthy people didn't go to prison. He said this over dinner at their apartment while I was visiting, said it like it was a simple fact, like justice was something that happened to other people. Elena asked him about a specific case mentioned in the investigations, a medical device company his firm had acquired and bankrupted, leaving patients without access to necessary equipment. Marcus dismissed it as a strategic business decision. Elena asked about the people who had died when they couldn't afford the inflated prices or lost access to their devices. Marcus said she was being emotional, that she didn't understand how business worked, that sentiment had no place in investment decisions. I watched my daughter's face as she listened to the man she had married explain why profits mattered more than human lives. I watched something die in her eyes and simultaneously come back to life, some spark of the girl who used to rescue injured birds. She asked for a divorce the next day. Marcus laughed. He told her she had signed a prenuptial agreement that left her with almost nothing if she left the marriage. He told her she had no career to return to, no skills that mattered in the real world, no options. He told her she would lose custody of Ashford because no judge would take a child from a wealthy, stable home to give to an unemployed mother. He told her all of this calmly, like he was explaining market forces, inevitable and impersonal. Elena moved back home with me the following week, bringing Ashford and 2 suitcases. Marcus called constantly, threatening and cajoling in turn. His lawyers sent letters. His investigators started following us, documenting Elena's activities, building a case for her unfitness as a mother. She was terrified and trapped and fighting anyway, which was the most like her old self I had seen her in years. The legal battle consumed everything. Marcus had unlimited resources and used them all. Elena had me, had a lawyer who worked partially pro bono because she believed in the case, had the truth. It wasn't clear if that would be enough. The depositions were brutal, Marcus's attorneys attacking Elena's character, her history, her mental health. They brought up the medication she had taken, framing it as evidence of instability rather than response to an impossible situation. But Elena was tougher than Marcus had calculated. She had documents, emails, recordings. She had evidence of his affairs, his tax evasion, his business practices. She had been quietly collecting information for months, preparing for this war even as she was fighting her own doubt and fear. She had learned from him, learned how to be strategic and ruthless when necessary. She used those lessons against him. The settlement took 8 months to negotiate. Elena got custody of Ashford, got enough money to be secure though not wealthy, got her freedom. Marcus got his reputation tattered but intact, got most of his fortune protected, got away with most of what he had done because that's how the system works when you can afford the best lawyers and the best accountants and the best fixers. Elena lives with me now, has for 2 years. She's going back to school, studying social work, planning to help people navigate systems designed to crush them. She works part-time at a legal aid clinic. She makes barely enough to contribute to expenses. She seems happy in a way she never was in the penthouse. Ashford is 4 now, a bright, curious child who plays in the garden and asks endless questions about bugs and birds and why the sky changes colors. She has no memory of her father's apartment, no understanding of what she lost or gained by leaving that life. Elena makes sure of that, protects her from the knowledge of what wealth can do to people. Marcus tried to maintain contact at first, scheduled visitations that he often missed, birthday gifts that were expensive and impersonal. But his attention span for fatherhood was limited, and as Ashford grew less like an acquisition and more like an actual child requiring actual attention, his interest waned. He sends money, fulfilling his legal obligation. He rarely visits. Ashford doesn't seem to miss him, which might be the saddest part of all. I think about those years often, about how close I came to losing my daughter completely, about how wealth promised her everything and delivered only emptiness. I see her now, living in my small house, driving my old car, wearing clothes from regular stores, and she is more herself than she ever was in designer gowns. She tells me sometimes that she's ashamed of who she became, of what she valued, of how long it took her to remember what mattered. I tell her that finding your way back is harder than never leaving the path, that she's braver than I was because she had further to climb back from. I tell her that Ashford will grow up knowing her mother chose her, chose love, chose humanity over money. I tell her these things and I believe them, though I know she still carries scars from those years, still wakes up sometimes from nightmares about being trapped. If you've stayed with this story until the end, thank you for listening. These stories matter because they're happening everywhere, to people seduced by promises of wealth and status, to families torn apart by the worship of money over humanity. I hope this story makes you think about what you value, about what you're teaching your children, about the real cost of the things we pursue. And if you found meaning in this story, I'd be grateful if you'd like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. The house is quiet now in the evenings. Elena reads while Ashford plays with simple toys, blocks and dolls and picture books. We eat dinner together every night at the same kitchen table where Elena told me about Marcus 7 years ago. We talk about ordinary things, school and work and weekend plans. We are not wealthy. We are not powerful. We are not important by any measure that Marcus Rothwell would recognize. But we are free and we are together and we remember that people matter more than things. In the end, that's everything. That's the only wealth that actually counts. And unlike money, it's something that nobody can take from you unless you give it away. I learned that lesson watching my daughter almost lose herself. She learned it by living through the nightmare of having everything except what mattered. I hope you never have to learn it the hard way. But if you do, I hope you find your way back the way Elena did. It's never too late to remember who you really are, underneath all the things you thought you wanted to be. The price of everything I've learned is often the loss of what actually matters. The real question is whether you realize that before it's too late.